Going live here, January the 4th, 1:17 a.m. This is Hannibal from the HannibalTV.com with a daily news update for you here. The Usos, John Morrison, and Sheamus all returned to the WWE on SmackDown last night. Of course, the Usos have been off TV since Jimmy Usos had that brush with the law, which he got dropped recently in court. John Morrison had been on Impact in recent years and doing movies, and Sheamus had, I think, some type of arm injury. I know I've seen pictures of him wearing a cast. So they were back on SmackDown. There's also news that Nikki Bella, who used to date and be engaged to John Morrison and previously dated Dolph Ziggler, is now engaged to Artem Chingvintsev or something from Dancing with the Stars. I guess they've been engaged for 2 months. She was previously engaged to John Cena in 2017. Not sure when that engagement actually ended. And AEW beat NXT in the Wednesday night ratings wars this week. However, NXT was a recap show and AEW did not air the previous week. So it drew a 0.36 rating. AEW Dynamite did on a TNT, and NXT on USA only drew a 0.15 rating, so a very low rating. In other news, Chris Jericho actually flew to Japan before Jon Moxley did. Jericho, his match is not until January 5th in Japan, where Moxley's, I guess, is the 4th, so today could be happening right now. Not sure what the exact time difference is. That's according to the Wrestling Observer. Jericho also has his son with him, apparently. New Japan and AEW relations appear to be improving. Of course, New Japan does not have American TV right now, so it would be in their best interest to try and latch on to AEW. Jericho did a promo for his New Japan match against Tanahashi with the AEW title, and they showed it on the New Japan World system, I guess, whatever it is, network. Tony Khan is allowing that. Tony Khan has approved for the AEW title to be used in that angle, according to the Wrestling Observer, and the both sides are not ice cold anymore. There is a crack in the door. There is still some bitterness on both sides, though, apparently, in relation to how things ended. I think particularly with the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. And I think a lot of that has to do with, for instance, I guess when AJ Styles left and Gallows and Anderson left, they got a nice send-off. But Omega and the Young Bucks, I guess, didn't get a good send-off at all. And they feel they were wronged by that. And I guess Omega has had other issues stemming from his relationship with New Japan that have caused him problems that he's going to open up on more in the future, unless some type of deal can be worked out. The NFL is having their most watched season on television since 2015. So the WWE has been using the excuse that TV viewership is now low because of all the other ways to watch stuff on TV now. But it is noteworthy that the NFL also has a TV show, and this season is being watched more than any season since 2015. So obviously, I think people are enjoying their product, watching it more. Lars Sullivan has a toy out in this new WWE toy series. It's the Mattel 105 series. And I guess Lars Sullivan, the former gay porn star, has a toy in the series. So I found that interesting. And apparently there was a glitch in the WWE 2K20 game, among lots of glitches that have been reported, but there was another glitch that happened when 2019 switched over to 2020, but they've resolved the glitch. But I've heard tons of reports of glitches with that game. I know they have made some fixes and they were offering refunds, I believe, at one point. But I'm not a video game expert anymore. I can't even remember the last time I played a video game. Patrick J says Jericho borrowed Hannibal's gimmick in Japan. I was doing the face paint and spiked jacket and the top hat before Jericho. One of the reasons I don't want to wrestle anymore is because Jericho used that gimmick. So it's like I'm copying Jericho since he did it on a bigger stage, even though I did it first. So MC says Patrick J is true. Yes, that is true. 90s car guy says Tanahashi isn't winning. I bet $100. Yeah, Tanahashi likely is not going to win. However, if Tanahashi wins, he's going to be granted an AEW title shot. Therefore, if he does win, you can count on a bit of a relationship with AEW and New Japan. Someone says Cody can't turn heel. I don't know. I don't watch much of Cody Rhodes. I was never really that interested in Cody Rhodes. Oh, and I saw online that I guess Dustin Rhodes, after wrestling on Dynamite this week, has now wrestled in 5 decades. I liked the Gold Dust character when it first came out. I actually really liked his WCW character, where they brought him in and they were doing all those promos and they brought him in with this coolest entrance ever. I forget what the hell it was called. For some reason, I'm thinking the name may have been Seven, but I'm probably wrong. Someone tell me whatever that gimmick was, but they promoted him. He came down, floated through the air. Then he got in the ring and ripped the clothes off and said it was a stupid gimmick. And then I don't remember him doing anything memorable in WCW after that. I know he was a regular on Thunder as just the natural Dustin Rhodes, but I can't remember him being in any feuds after that. I really think they dropped the ball with that gimmick. Okay, someone is confirming it is Seven. And I remember he wrestled in WWC Puerto Rico in 2007 and 2006. I believe 2006 for sure. And I did ask him about that. And he said he was very disappointed that they dropped that Seven gimmick too. I did have one issue with Dustin Rhodes. Me and another promoter from the Prairie Wrestling Alliance in Edmonton, Alberta, had booked him for 2 events back in 2007 after I had interaction with him in Puerto Rico, and I'd actually booked him for those 2 shows through Carlos Colon. But he ended up asking for all of his money in advance, and then he no-showed both shows. I was actually supposed to wrestle him the second night in Edmonton, but because he didn't show up after demanding all of his money in advance, I never got to wrestle him. I ended up that night instead teaming with Abdullah the Butcher against 2 wrestlers. But that was when he was having his issues. But I always thought that was low because he did talk to us and tell us that he would make it up to us. But when I called him to book him for another event, he said he was mad because we had announced he had no-showed the show, and he didn't like that. So he said he was never going to wrestle for us. So I thought that wasn't really a way of like owning up to screwing over promoters. I understand that Jacksonville, where he was living, was pretty far from Calgary, required a long flight, but was also an expensive flight. So it's unfortunate. I'm pretty sure it was Jacksonville. That may not have been the exact town, but it was somewhere like Jacksonville in Florida where he was living. And the sad part about it is we had a really big crowd for that show. We had almost 1,000 people. It was really well promoted. And the next time we went back to that same town, the next year, we had Samoa Joe, Tatanka, and I think it was the Honky Tonk Man on the card. And we had maybe a little over a quarter of the crowd we had the previous year. And I know a lot of fans were upset that Goldust no-showed. So after that, I ran the town one more time. As I said, I lost a fortune on that show. And then I never even came back to that town because his no-show killed the town. So yeah, that's unfortunate. PWC 24/7. Did I get the money back? No, he never sent the money back. We'd already sent a deposit. Then he worked us saying that he didn't have enough money to get a cab to the airport, and he had all these bills to pay, so he needed all the money for both shows before he would come. And he was begging us, and then he didn't come. So that was annoying. Clark Haynes says Vampiro. Well, I have worked with Vampiro, and although I don't necessarily understand why he's said some stuff about me that he has, he was reliable in my dealings with him, and I actually still consider him friends, I guess. And I would like to still wrestle him or team with him one day, and I'm sorry to hear that he has Alzheimer's. Have I worked with anyone in New Japan Pro Wrestling on their current roster of New Japan Pro Wrestling that are currently on their roster? None come to my mind. I'm not very familiar with their current roster. The only American I can think of that works for them is Lance Cade and Tama Tonga, Haku's son, who knows? Chances are I'll probably have some interaction with them someday, but I've never met either one. So have a good night, everyone. I'll check in with you with more news as it comes. And I do post these on the Great North Wrestling Podcast on iTunes. I posted my Snitsky full shoot interview recently. I did an interview GNW podcast on Skype with Calamity Kate, who I did a New Japan week-long camp with last December. That was a lot of fun and really good workouts. So check out that interview. Have a good night, everyone. Have a good weekend, too.